Hi, everybody. I'm Pat Patterson, and this has been one of the busiest weekends for late model racing in the history of this country. The biggest in terms of car count was right here in Martinsville, Virginia. It was the Miller Genuine Draft 300 with $25,000 sitting here for whomever got to the checkers first. Jason Young tells us what happened.
Imagine an entry list 3 times the size of the starting lineup. That's what the late model drivers faced here at Martinsville for the Miller Genuine Draft 300. It takes a round of qualifying and 3 heat races to set the field of 36. 1978 Winston Cup Rookie of the Year Ronnie Thomas is on the pole with Shane Lockhart alongside. But right from the start, it's Lockhart taking the top spot away while Thomas has to settle for the runner-up spot. The first caution waves when number 29 Tink Reedy goes for a quick skate down in turn 1. B.A. Wilson in the 81 is also involved. Both keep going. The next yellow flies when number 90 Alan Williams gets together with Tony McGuire in the WDBJ number 7 Chevrolet on lap 62. They too keep going. Pole sitter Thomas is running in 4th. Then he gets real loose. He makes a great save, but this drops him way back in the pack. The 10-minute halfway break comes at lap 100. Leading the field to the pits is leader Shane Lockhart, as everyone gets ready for the final 100 circuits. It doesn't take long in the second half for the action to slow again. Jason Gully in the Wins number 01 and Mike Porter in the C&A Cole Pontiac tangle in turn 2. But the biggest crash of the afternoon happens when the lap car of Frank Denny Jr. gets a shove from Johnny Rumley in the Taco Bell number 21. Tim McGuire, Ronnie Thomas, and a number of others are all involved just past lap 140. Everyone is okay. Then with 2 laps to go, 3-time winner of this event, Barry Beggerly, triggers a yellow, setting up a 2-lap sprint to the checkers. But there isn't a challenge for the lead. Lockhart easily holds on for the $25,000 win. He led every lap. Second goes to Nathan Butke, followed by Danny Edwards Jr., Mike Buffkin, and David Blankenship. For Final Edition, I'm Jason Young reporting.
Thanks, J-Man. A little earlier, the winner of the race stopped by to talk with us about his big victory today. Absolutely incredible run when you think about it, to go 200 laps here at Martinsville and never get past for the lead. That's got to be some kind of record.
I tell you, it really is. I've seen Beggerly win a race down here a year or so ago like that, led every lap, but never thought we could come down here and do it today. Things are just so competitive, so many good cars out there, and I knew there was going to be some good cars coming from the back. I never thought it would happen.
I think for everybody that drives a late model car, you really want to savor one like that. When you get one that just basically drives itself around and not taking anything away from what you did in the car. Right. But, man, it's nice to get hooked up like that.
I tell you, the crew and everybody done such a good job of preparing the car. It really made my job easy. It was a little nerve-wracking at times, but the car really handled it great all day long. It really wasn't abusing it. It really ran.
Did you do anything special? Had you run here before at Martinsville? Had you spent any time racing here?
We come up here last year. We've been coming for the last 2 or 3 years. We finished like a 6th place finish, and last year we ended up 2nd. Beggerly won the race, and we brought the same car back. We come up here and practiced a couple times, and I like this track. It's just got long straightaways, and you can really let it stretch out. And as long as you got it together when you get to the corner down there, it works very well.
Is it tough for everybody who's seen Martinsville, that concrete that runs around the inside of the turns there? I know for some folks that change of going from asphalt to concrete can sometimes be difficult when the tires get hot. But for you, it certainly didn't seem like adhesion was any problem at all for your tires.
I'll tell you, the Hoosier tires worked real well. It got down in the corner. When it changes over to concrete going in turn 1, there's a bump down there. We really had to change shocks on the car to get it to go across the bump. And once we did that, the car was there all day long.
Biggest win of your career, would you say?
Absolutely, the biggest.
Well, you're a back-to-back champion at Southside Speedway, and I know that you get started back with that program again. And man, what a way to start the season going back there.
I tell you, car number 95, we kicked it off with a good win here today. We hope to go back and win some more races at Southside. Maybe we'll get that championship in 95, and our sponsors want it. We're going to try it.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe they'll give you the keys to the radio station. Now you can have your own show there and just go in and check in and play whenever you like.
I have all this fun sitting here doing this.
It was a great win out there today. What about the crowd, too? To win in front of 19,000 people here, that's got to be a gigantic crowd for a late model race.
I tell you, it was remarkable. I never thought that they would pull that many people. I knew they had good weather leading up to this and all, but to have 19,000 fans sitting there for a late model stock car race, it really surprised me. I thought it would take a year or so to get going, but Martinsville's done a super good job of promoting it, getting it out there in front of everybody, and it worked out real well.
I know it's hard to think about the future right now and you don't want to after you have a big win like this, but looking down the road, is professional racing something that you see yourself doing? I mean, would you like to see yourself moving up to a Busch car or something like that as time goes on?
Right now I'm at a point in my career that I've done a lot on the local level, late model stock car, win another championship, win more races, things like that. That's, I could go back and do that, but I really got to decide. I either got to really make a launch and try to make a go of it, get out, run some of these other tracks, get some exposure. Maybe we can luck up, get a ride here or there. I'm at the crossroads right now, and I really don't know what to do. Certainly today is a big plus in the direction that I want to go, but we'll just have to wait and see. We'll play it. I'm 31 years old. I got a little bit of time.
Got plenty of got plenty of time. Congratulations on a big win here today.
Thank you very much.
All right, Shane
Thank
Lockhart.
You,
now you're asking yourself, Pat, where are you? We're at Martinsville Speedway. We did this race today. In fact, you'll get a chance to see it on Prime Network coming up on Thursday Night Lightning here in just, I don't know, about 3 weeks or so. So that's why we're here doing the show here tonight. Hang around. We've got more of On Pit Road Final Edition after this. We turn this into a late model show. Let's look at one other big race of the day, and it's the NASCAR Busch Grand National. Boys, we're excited about running at Nashville Motor Speedway. Heck, even Darrell Waltrip came out of retirement, Busch retirement that is, to run his home track. There was only one problem. An awful lot of teams will be up till midnight most nights this coming week just fixing the damage, as Randy Anthony reports.
You'll have to go back into the 80s the last time the Busch Grand National Series ran at Nashville Speedway. The Opryland 320 had a familiar face on the pole in Winston Cup regular Darrell Waltrip, who this time was driving a Terry Labonte-owned machine. And it didn't take long for yellow flags to fly as John Tanner and Chris Diamond get together for the first of many cautions. Survival today will be the name of the game. Just ask Tommy Houston, who here gets loosed or was pushed a little bit. After the restart, Kirk Shelmerdine's number 25 wrecks in the pack for another caution. Tire wear became a big factor as NASCAR only allowing 5 sets of tires for this race. And here 94 Series champ David Green uses one of those sets. But the story is on the restart as Dirk Stevens gets involved in another crash, a record number of cautions for a race at Nashville, and on lap 182, a course clogging accident with very little room to get through. Watch from the in-car camera of Dirk Stevens, number 64, who barely makes it through. The Good Driving Award of the day, however, goes to Chad Little, who goes for the long slide as Tommy Houston gets a lap back on the restart. But at the end of a long and grueling day, it's David Green, holding off Chad Little, and the number 44 Slim Jim ride gets the win with 6 cars on the lead lap. David had been track champion at Nashville in years past. In today's race, a nice homecoming win on the home track. Terry Labonte is third behind Green and Little. Fourth goes to Kenny Wallace, who ran much of the race on 7 cylinders, and fifth is Larry Pearson.
Finally, David Green gets some good luck as opposed to all the bad luck he's had so far. Defending this championship was probably a lot harder than he thought it was going to be. Now, the Busch Grand National guys should have had a pretty good idea of what was in store for them on Sunday after what happened in the late model Slim Jim All-Pro Series the day before. It was a wild one, and I'll tell you, the outlaw Scott Hansen manages to pull off the win. Hal Goodson out of South Carolina finishes in the second spot. Matt Kennison finished in third. Freddie Query was fourth, and Billy Bigley rounded out the top 5 from Nashville. Now, in some other news, we've got some good news for you. You probably heard that Ernie Irvin tested his Busch car last week in Darlington, South Carolina, and all went very well. What you may not know, though, is that Ernie isn't even slated to see his doctor again for another 2 months. So any conversation about a quick comeback is a little bit premature. The other bit of feel-good news concerns Chuck Bound, who joined us in our very first Final Edition show. Chuck has been sidelined since last June, but he tested a Cup car at Bristol, and his double vision was completely gone. He was immediately signed to drive the Active Trucking Cup car for the rest of the year, and we hope he wins a bunch of races. Coming up next, 2-liter Formula Cup action, and later the World of Outlaws gets their meat of the season underway, so don't you dare touch that remote. We'll get you caught up to date on all the latest. with this edition of On Pit Road, final edition. The guy who gets the job done here as far as putting all of it together with a good staff, I might add, is Clay Campbell, the president and CEO here at the Speedway. And what a great day it was out here, Clay, with more than 19,000 people. You mean, you got to be blown away yourself with how many folks you had for this one.
Well, I tell you, Pat, we're tickled to death, and that's the biggest crowd we've ever had for a non-Winston Cup event. So, you know, that speaks for itself. We're real tickled about that.
You even had, and I'm not picking on the Busch Series now, but you even had the Busch cars here before, and didn't draw that many people with the Busch and the late models. Why do you think was it better work on your part, or what made it all happen?
No, we put forth the same effort on any event that we do, but the late models, they're just so popular in this part of the country. They've got such a following at all these weekly tracks. Plus the ticket price that we had today, $15, was affordable for the weekly type fan. And I think that was the biggest reason we had such a good crowd. And like I say, these guys are, I mean, the late model stock division is so good, and we recognize that. And we've had them with the Busch cars, we've had them with modifieds over the years, and we just wanted to give them, you know, top billing, a special show just for them, and they proved what they're worth.
Man, the caliber of competition, too. I mean, you had probably 120 or so cars here, and none of these cars would be anything less than top 5, top 6 at any late model track anywhere around this part of the country.
That's true, and if you watch the heat races today, I mean, that's as good as some of the feature races at a lot of tracks.
Yeah, we're taking a look at some of the heat race action right now. Who came up with the concept in terms of how you would determine the starting field? Was that new this year, or has this always been the way that you've done it in the past?
Basically, it's always been that way, even going back to the days when we ran modifieds and sportsman cars in Grand National. The format has been the same.
Qualify the top 20, and then
yeah,
how's it
varying
going
with
there?
the laps, but the only thing different we did this time was put all the qualifying races along with the big race in the same day. It used to be we did it on Saturday. We'd qualify them Thursday or Friday, whatever. Then we'd take the qualifying races on Saturday and the big event on Sunday.
Yeah, because you took 4 out of each of the qualifiers, and there were 3 of those, so that gave you your 32, and then you started, what was it, 36 altogether?
36,
you had 4
right.
provisionals according to points and so forth.
Right.
As it went down. Is there any chance, and I guess I shouldn't even phrase it that way, you will be back with another one of these in the fall. Now, is that one the conclusion of the late model season for a lot of these guys, or is it just another major event on the schedule?
It's another major event, and there are probably a few races after that, but that pretty much wraps up those guys' season.
Is there any chance that you'll see an All-Pro Series race here as well? Do they come to the track with the Busch or with the Cup Series this year?
They come with the Cup cars in April. The Super Trucks will be here in September along with the Cup cars.
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask you about that. I know everybody around here has been really excited about what they've seen so far out of the trucks, and I got a feeling that this will be a challenge for them, because this place was always a challenge for anybody the first time they ever came here. Even guys that started off in Winston Cup. Should be an exciting show with the trucks as well.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. We've had a lot of talk about it. There's probably as much talk on that division as anything we've ever run. So we're real anxious to see what goes on in September.
Plenty of tickets still left for those events, and how can people order their tickets if they want to order them in advance?
Well, the ticket office is open here 7 days a week, so just call 703-956-3151. Place your order.
Great. Well, we'll encourage everybody to do that and to get their tickets early here. It was just a really, really good show out there, and I couldn't believe, the crowd was so responsive today too. It was like, you had a lot of names that you had not heard of, but boy, this crowd had heard of them. They had come to, yell for their local heroes.
That's right. Everybody out there today had somebody in the grandstand pulling for them, and that's what we're after, and I think we accomplished that.
All right, well, hang around because we want to talk to you a little bit more later on in the program about NASCAR in general, and I'm talking about the racing that's going on and track operations and so forth. So we'll come back and talk to you a little bit more. And when I was down in Sebring over this past weekend, I spent as much time treading water as racing, but just a few hours away, the weather was perfect for round 2 of the Hooters Formula Cup Series, and it went off without a hitch. Of course, this is a brand new series. This is in its second year. Anthony Lazzaro, last year's champion, led it from the pole. Wire-to-wire win for Lazzaro, and that gets his season rectified after having a tough time at the season opener at New Smyrna. Kyle Conzer, the Dodge Shelby Pro champion, finished in the 2nd spot. Greg Tracy finished 3rd. Mamo Gidley was 4th, and Jimmy Chianis finished in the 5th spot over in Bradenton, Florida. Up next, we'll do some more late models. We'll be back with more from Martinsville right after this. Virginia, everybody. Again, if you're wondering kind of why we're here and what we're doing, we did the race here for the Miller Genuine Draft 300, and we hung around and had a good time with the drivers tonight, and we decided we'll just do the show from here. So that's why we're standing here. Now, let's see if my math is right. We had over 100 late model cars here in Martinsville today and a whole slew of them in Nashville, Tennessee. That couldn't have left anybody for the Hooters Super Cup race in Bradenton Saturday night, right? Wrong. I think you better know. Take a look at this.
There may have been some other late model races going on elsewhere, but no one was asking for a refund at Bradenton after 100 laps of furious action. A pill draw among the top 10 qualifiers puts Darrell Shelnut on the pole, which track experts know is trouble for everyone else. But give a call to fast qualifier Daniel Keene in the number 5. He chooses to start shotgun on the field. Hooters gave him 10,000 reasons to try and win from the rear, and his march through the field is just one of the early subplots of a race that has twists and turns and bumps, plenty of bumps. Second place is Action Central in the opening 25 laps. 4 is Randy Fox. The 2,800-pound calling card being delivered is by Jimmy Cope. The Floridian's nickname is Mr. Excitement, no doubt. This is where it gets crazy for a while. Bobby Gill is the 71, and just for an instant he's second. An instant later, he's out, and so is Fox. Another look shows how the first Super Cup race winner watches some bumper racing. The opening is clearly there, but just as quickly it closes. And for want of a foot, the points leader suffers a wreck to a car that he had just finished repairing. This puts Cope in second, but before he can do much with Shelnut, Dick Anderson forces the 15 driver to take care of business. The veteran driver shows just how good his Dodge is by going upstairs and making it work, if Cope will let him. Hold your breath. Shelnut even gets a piece of the action. As I said, fans weren't asking for their money back when this one was over. Now, how's Keene doing? He's in the top 10 by mid-race and keeping his wits about him when others are losing theirs. Meanwhile, Anderson makes his first determined attempt to take the lead and runs side by side for several laps before settling back into second. There are a couple of incidents to slow the proceedings once or twice, but besides some crumpled bodywork, they're harmless and don't affect the outcome. Mike McCrary did see a likely top 5 finish go round after some minor contact, but it could have been worse. In the final laps, Keene sits 7th, and it's clear that that's as high as he'll get. In the final moments, Cope fades slightly, so it's between Anderson and Shelnut. The finish is clean, which plays into the 7 drivers' hands, as both races, the Hooters Formula Cup and this race, are won from the pole. Mario Goslin is 4th, and Dave Fletcher is 5th in Bradenton. Stephanie talked with the winner immediately after the event.
Although you led every lap, they sure weren't easy laps. You had a couple of guys behind you bearing down on you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, at first we started out and Randy Fox was there, and then Jimmy Cope, and then Dickie throughout the rest of the race, probably half the race. These guys is tough to beat. They're professionals. This is what they do for a living, so it's sort of proud for myself. This is a hobby to beat these guys. It's tough. It's hard.
A couple of great races at DeSoto Speedway. Okay, enough late models. Let's take off the fenders. We'll have some sprint car results right after this. California have had to be pretty flexible lately in figuring out ways to get their races in. What with all the rain they've been having out there, the NARC Series ran a rain-delayed show last Sunday, and the SCRA managed to get one in the books.
A spiffy new Manzanita Speedway played host to the SCRA circuit, complete with brand new lights and a new retaining fence. And the Phoenix faithful were out in full force, pulling for their local favorites. The thrills start early in this one. That's Dennis Stewart tangling with Buddy Nelson in the B main. No harm done, and they move on to the feature. Number 37, Kerry Foss, starts on the pole and quickly starts building a sizable lead. In fact, he's so hot, talk about your fireworks on the racetrack. How's that for an angle? Meanwhile, the Tempe Tornado, Leland McSpadden, starts making his way through traffic. Think that makes this woman happy? She gets even happier after number 63, Jerry Meyer, shreds a tire. Not because she doesn't like Jerry, but because that brings out the yellow flag. And on the restart, McSpadden gets the advantage, using the top of the racetrack to get past Jerry Kuntz and Foss for the lead. And from there on out, the race is all McSpadden's, who goes on to take a wildly popular victory, the first of his SCRA career, all on his 23rd wedding anniversary. Completing the all-Arizona top 5 are Foss, Eric Wilkins, Schumann, and J.J. Yaley. After 2 days of rainouts, the Northern Auto Racing Club finally got its season opener started on Sunday afternoon, but all the bad weather took its toll, creating a rough and heavy racetrack. There's Pennsylvania visitors Freddie Raymer and Keith Kaufman battling hard in their heat race. Kaufman's number 64 is tight, and when Bobby McMahon tries to get by, Kaufman comes down on him and bobbles to a stop, right in front of Jason Lund in the 8L, who can't slow down and has nowhere to go. In the feature event, World of Outlaws star Dave Blaney is on the pole in the 17R, but at the green, outside pole sitter Leland McSpadden puts his number 50 machine up front. That is until they reach the backstretch, where Blaney once again takes over the top spot. But after a lap 4 restart, it's Blaney and number 3 Paul McMahon putting on the fireworks. The two drivers dice it up for the lead for a while, with the racetrack playing a major part in who can hold on to it. They take turns, but McMahon has it when right in front of him, number 10 Danny Burton takes a scary ride, flipping end over end several times before finally coming to a stop. Burton walks to the ambulance on his own and is okay. Just after that, defending series champ Brent Kading drops out of contention as he slows on the racetrack. Back to racing, and Blaney is trying his best to catch McMahon, and when the leader's throttle sticks, Blaney sees his chance and blasts by. Shortly after that, McMahon's car stops altogether. As the laps wind down, Blaney is trying to work traffic with number 11 Steve Kent in second. But when the leader gets too high, Kent is able to get by. From there on out, Blaney tries his best to get back up front, but on the final circuit, he gets into a lapped car and loses a position, while Kent goes on to take the season-opening checkers. Leland McSpadden is the guy who gets by Blaney for second. Bobby McMahon is fourth, and fifth goes to Shane Scott, who started the feature dead last. This is Stephanie Boyd reporting.
All right, thanks, Steph. Those Outlaw boys were at it again, off since their last trip to Florida, and Gary Wright gets the victory out of Mesquite, Texas. Jack Haudenschild, the second-place finisher. Mark Kinzer rolls along in third. Danny the Dude Lasowski finishes fourth, and Stevie Smith in the fifth spot. Don't go anywhere. More of On Pit Road. Final edition comes your way right after this. Shane Lockhart just won the $25,000 in the Miller 300 just a few hours ago at Martinsville Speedway. You know, second place money wasn't too bad today. I believe it was about $5,000. It went to Nathan Butke, and I talked to Nathan right after the race. Nathan, you really worked it hard out there today, and I tell you, if Shane Lockhart had anybody that was going to beat him, you were the guy that was right there at it. What were you thinking about those last few laps?
Well, during the whole race, I was thinking once in a while I could get a little bit of edge on them, and I was thinking maybe I got something for them, maybe I do. And near the end of the race, it just kept on, you know, it stayed about the same the whole race. And near the end of the race, it just seemed to get a little bit worse, and I just tried to hang on there to the end.
Where were you at as far as the turns go? Was he beating you out of 3 and 4, or 1 and 2, or was he just that much better in the straightaways?
Well, it wasn't really which turn it was. It was I'd either hit a good lap or he did a good lap, and he was hitting a lot of good laps. It seemed like, you know, he was just more consistent. Where the car was a little tight, you know, it was harder to drive, and I was trying to get a better line to get in the corner, and he could pick up the gas quicker than I could and come off.
I watched the lap traffic, and there was really a lot of dodging bullets out there. You had a lot of guys that were keeping up and running with their group, but when you guys would catch them, it really looked like it was a big job to try to get around these guys. Was it as tough as it looked out there?
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of lap traffic out there today, but I tell you, in practice, our car really ran good on the outside, and I was looking for it. I thought, you know, I could motor around guys on the outside, but the car was tight, and it was pretty tough, but everything went pretty smooth.
You know, people don't maybe not realize this, but you tried a number of bush races last year and dropped back to this program. When I say drop back, I don't mean that in terms of being a lesser sport, because certainly your abilities in the late model car and the abilities it takes to run one are no less. But did going and doing some of the Busch Grand National racing make you a better late model racer?
Definitely, I believe definitely so. Racing here in a Busch car, I know you have to slow the car down a lot and get it pointed out the corner, and that's helped me out a lot.
Is it something that you want to go back to eventually? And what is the plan for your team throughout the rest of this year?
Yes, definitely. I want to go run Busch next year. We're going to try to run as many late model stock races as we can, and hopefully pick up a big sponsor and win a lot of races and go Busch racing next year.
What tracks are you competing at this year?
I'm running at Caraway Speedway in Tri-County this year for late model stock, and we'll run a few big races. We'll be here at Martinsville, Wilkesboro, and Myrtle Beach.
You've got a new guy building the engines, and understand a whole new group of people working on the car. Does it seem like it's going to be one of these deals that meshes together in a reasonable amount of time?
Well, first of all, we got Cal Northrop Jr., crew chief, and then everything kind of fell into place. I mean, it's kind of who you know out there. You got Danny Cox to build the engines, and that's done really great. And he's a really smart guy, and we got Pro Shocks helping us out. They come in and helped us out, and whatever help we can get, I mean, it's just for the better.
Will you try to rack up points at more than one racetrack? You said Caraway and some of the others, but can you actually compete for the racing series at two different racetracks?
Yes, we'll run at Tri-County and Caraway, and we'll run for the points at both those tracks, but anywhere else we won't have any chance for any points.
Well, congratulations on a great run this afternoon. I know that you'd like to have gotten there first, but nevertheless, a big race for you and a good second-place finish. Pretty good way to start the year, isn't it?
Definitely so. I mean, I've got this, race behind my back, and now we can go on and do better the whole year.
All right, Nathan, thanks for being with us, and good luck the rest of this year.
All right.
Nathan Butke. And when we come back, results from IMSA and another late model driver will join us live. More On Pit Road Final Edition right after this. Everybody, if you have been with us from the beginning of tonight's show, you heard me mention my watery exploits in races at Sebring's road course. You really didn't need fire suits this year. Life jackets would have been more useful. The 12-hour race was swamped by water that affected several contenders' chances. Karen Gordon has a look at the Exxon 12-hour race and the Bridgestone Supercar race.
64 cars competing in 4 separate divisions started the 43rd running of the classic 12 Hours of Sebring. In the Exxon World Sports Car Division, Fermin Velez drove his Ferrari past Oldsmobile's Jeremy Dale on the very first lap. Velez held the lead until the first pit stop, giving way to the number 50 Ferrari. But minutes later, the number 50 machine slowed on torque, low on fuel. At the 8th hour, torrential rain returned, bringing out the red flag. An hour later, the sky cleared, and during the 9th hour, the race was restarted in darkness with the number 3 Ferrari of Fermin Velez, Andy Evans, and Eric Van der Poel out front. The number 3 car held the lead, stopping in the late stages for a splash and go, giving Ferrari its first Sebring victory in more than 20 years.
Well, I just can't believe it. I mean, I'm exhausted. I couldn't stay any longer, honestly. Especially mentally, I was really tired. But anyway, we won for Ferrari, for Pirelli, for Andy Evans, for all the guys.
In the Exxon GTS 1 category, the driving trio of Steve Millen, Johnny O'Connell, and John Morton gave Nissan its 3rd consecutive Sebring GT victory. The number 75 300 ZX dominated the race, giving up the lead only once to Hans Stuck as heavy rain fell over the circuit.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it? To come here to Sebring, which is probably the toughest race in the world, and the Nissan wins it 3 times in a row. It's a heck of a lot for Nissan and Yokohama tires.
In Exxon GTS 2, Bill Oberlin and Joe Cogbill assisted IMSA owner Charlie Slater to his first GT victory, driving the number 26 Porsche 911. In the Bridgestone Supercar Series, Sean Rowe earned his first series pole, but started 8th when the top 8 positions were inverted due to series rules. But Rowe worked his way up through traffic during the 30-minute sprint race, then passed the leading BMW with just minutes remaining to score his first Bridgestone Supercar victory.
Well, those boys made me work for it. I mean, there's not a slack driver in this field. The BMWs, the Nissans, everyone's strong here. But the little Greenwood Corvette did its job on these Bridgestone tires.
The next round is set for Road Atlanta and Brazelton, Georgia in late April.
And despite the mold and mildew, Sebring's still something special. And what is wrong with Penske Racing? 2 IndyCar events, and not only does that juggernaut not have a win, it doesn't even have a top 5. Sunday's Australian Grand Prix, which ended Saturday here in the States, was won by Paul Tracy, who used to drive for Penske, but has now given Newman Haas its first win in over a year. Bobby Rahal made another fine run to finish second and take over the series points lead. Scott Pruitt also placed in the top 5. Al Unser Jr. managed to finish in the 6th spot. Now, we have a gentleman with us who is awfully ready to get back at it this year. He came off of a 4th place finish down in Myrtle Beach with the big all-pro season finale down there. Came in here this afternoon, didn't quite have the horsepower it took to be competitive, but nevertheless, you had a pretty good run out there, Elliott Sadler. What kind of day was it for you here at Martinsville?
Well, I don't think it was too bad, Pat. I tell you, there's a lot of good cars here. There's 120 here from all the top divisions around around Virginia and North Carolina and stuff. So to come out 13th place finish with a car in one piece, I think we did okay.
Yeah, and you dodged some bullets out there too, because there were some pretty hairy accidents out there. One of which I was standing over in your pits, kind of watching there, and you made a dive down the pit road. And if there was a cool move of the race award, I think you would have gotten it for that one. That was pretty heads up coming out of 2 to get in there, because it had the whole stretch blocked on the backstretch.
Yeah, we really knew we weren't really fast enough to win the race, so we kind of took our time, tried to stay out of trouble, and it ended up working good for us as we finished. We finished 13th, and a lot of cars went home tore up, but we didn't. So now we can prepare for the season instead of repair.
Now, you weren't one of the Fast 20 qualifiers in this event, so you turned around and had to run one of the heat races to get in. That's some added pressure, because they weren't going to take but 4 slots out of there, and you were back there in that 3rd and 4th slot the whole race. A lot of heat on you there to make the show.
I'll tell you what, I was a whole lot more nervous for the heat race than I was the feature race. I run 4th most of the race. I don't think I've ever looked in the rearview mirror as much as I did, trying to keep up with Maurice Hill and the guy in front of me. But I tell you, we scratched all morning, changed motors this morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. We just did all kinds of changes to the car, and it worked out all right. We made it in the race, and we were careful, and we're pretty satisfied.
Well, we'll mention that Brother Hermie in the Busch Grand National Tour and the DeWalt machine was over in Nashville spinning around today. I think he ended up with about a 13th or 14th place finish, but nevertheless, you had most of the family here. How'd you convince them all to come help you out in Martinsville and not be over with Hermie like they normally are?
Well, being our first race of the year, I think they decided to come on and try to cheer us on. We run real good in practice, so a lot of high expectations were involved with us. So I'm kind of glad they came with us and gave us a little extra support. We really needed this weekend because things were down on Saturday after we didn't make the top 20. But I'm kind of glad they came up. You know, nothing's wrong with fan support.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, Hermie has a good following as it is anyway.
Final question for you, just a few seconds left. How much more racing will you do this year? Will it be back to South Boston for a whole season there, and will you do some more of these special shows?
Yeah, we're going to run South Boston a full schedule. I think they got 22 races involved. We're going to run every Friday night. We're going to end up running about 55 to 60 races this year, and we're going to come back to Martinsville and end it up again in October. And maybe we can make a better showing, and I think we're going to do okay.
Good, good. Great to have you here, and appreciate you staying up late. Some of these guys stay up awful late to be with us, and we appreciate it a bunch. Good run out there today. Elliott Sadler, we got more coming at you from Martinsville, Virginia. You stick around. We'll be right back. Virginia, where the JP Sports crew has been working their tails off ever since early morning, filming the big race here, the Miller Genuine Draft 300, and hanging around, of course, for final edition, which is what we're doing now. You know, these car haulers are getting to be some pretty fancy things, and one guy who's got a brand new one is Bobby Labonte, and Bobby's having a great year this year with all of his exploits, and we sent our ace man, Mark Allen, out to take a look at this new fancy rig.
Bobby, we hear you got the trick transporter in Busch Grand National Garage. How about a tour?
Well, I don't know if it's trick, but let's take a look at it.
Yeah, we know it's NASCAR legal. We're sure of that. Now, there, in first blush here, there doesn't look like there's anything hanging out that you can hook an elbow or a sleeve on or anything. Tell us your thoughts about putting this together.
Well, basically, what I did was I went to High Tech last year and looked at their transporters that they built. Seemed like I liked their quality craftsmanship. And last year I took pictures of other different people's trailers. I was sneaking in there with Kodak fun savers and taking pictures here and there and getting ideas and stuff like that, and kind of put things together. And I, kind of came up with something that I liked. I think it works good for the team, functional. It's good for the sponsor. We've got a lounge that we didn't have in previous years. We've never had a lounge in a trailer. We've upgraded from last year to this year, so try to get all the elements in there that we need, and kind of turned out pretty nice, I hope. So if you want to, we'll take a look at the rest of it.
Okay, well, let's see. Why don't we just go ahead and kind of just informally walk through this. Show us what we got here and why you did it the way you did.
Well, we got uniforms at the back here. Basically easy to get to for the crew to get to walk out. The doors you walked in closed so you can't really see inside, so they can change clothes inside. Nobody can come inside. We've got some secret doors here.
See, here's the trick stuff.
Yeah, we got secret doors here that just that'll latch open up here. They just have some basic tools and stuff like that that we brought for Daytona. We don't have everything all set up like we want to, but we've got our spare transmissions. We've got sheet metal brake shear roller that we had in our other truck. We just, wanted to put it here, but we put it on wheels so we can take it in and out because we won't use it everywhere. Next, we have shocks. We have our assortment of Bilstein shocks that we race, and we had these shocks in the old truck. We just didn't have. We had different tubes. Bruce at High Tech, they put all this in. Made a drawer down there for miscellaneous stuff. Hold about 100 shocks. And we're, like I said, we had this many before. We just put them in a different style cabinet here.
Kind of looks like a wine cellar of sorts.
Could be a wine cellar, yeah. Basically, let's see, over here we have springs. This is a spring cabinet. We have all of our assortment of springs, front and rear springs that fit in here. Again, Bruce made this at High Tech. We can come in here and get a pair of 1100s, 1200 if we want to, number 36 if we want to, 1800, a 2600, then we go all the rear springs. So we have all of our springs in here that we'll end up racing for the whole year. We could take some out after this race because we don't run our Daytona springs a lot of places, but we'll probably just leave them in here. Next we have a computer that we have games on. No, we don't have games on it yet. I guess we could play solitaire if we wanted to, but what we do have is the computer for the shock dyno, which is next. And this is something that a lot of the Winston Cup teams have, and we didn't have this last year, and we saw that there's a lot that you can find in shocks, so we said, hey, let's get one, and we can work on it, try to get it all figured out, and see if we can learn something off of it. And so far, it's been useful. We've dynoed shocks, we've dynoed springs, we've had a lot of stuff that we've been able to do with it, and we've still got a long ways to go on learning, but that's why we got it, so we can learn. So I think it was a great investment, and if again, if we needed to sell the trailer tomorrow, I think it would be a great selling item because people want shock dynos nowadays. So Kurt Rohr built the shock dyno, and he did us a great job on that. More list of cabinets here. We've got our flathead button head bolts. We've got powder pins. We have our nuts and bolts and washers here that we carry in case we need more.
The thing I'm really impressed with here, you don't have any tape on here that's got magic marker. I mean, all this stuff, you can read it.
Right. Well, that's something that the girls back in the office did on the computer, and they did an excellent job on that. I mean, that was I didn't see it till we got down here. I'd gone early, and they'd done that after I left. So that's just something that they worked on, and we're still working on a few more that once we get all dialed in.
Well, this is the Grand Tour. How much do we owe you?
You can pay on the way out, and we have a big box over there for donations if you want to put in there.
Change. I've got lots of change.
Oh, okay. Well, that could probably, we might be able to buy some batteries for the remote for the TV set.
Tell you what, I'll give you a Slim Jim pepperoni and cheese. How about that for payment?
Hey, I'll take one. These are good. It's lunchtime anyway.
More bad weather? You're kidding me. Not twice in a row. Yep, the NHRA's rained out another one. Gator National is postponed until March 31st and April 2nd. That's 2 in a row. That's too bad for those guys. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. When summer ended last year, Frankie Kerr was crowned the club all-star champion. Now this summer approaches, and he's looking for a reigning championship form again.
The cold and snow of a winter day in Ohio doesn't exactly bring racing to mind, unless, of course, you're about to enter the shop of Club All-Star champ Frankie Kerr. Inside, both driver and crew are painstakingly preparing their sprinters for the upcoming season, practically starting from scratch after the end of the '94 campaign.
Well, we sell everything at the end of the year. Through the year, we start selling cars that we used up and that we figure, we only run them 20, 25 races and sell them. And then we start adding to our fleet at the end of the year. we start building them up for this winter, and we'll start like we have here, 4 cars, and it usually takes 5 cars to run a year.
Those cars are owned by Stan Shope, but the shop belongs to Kerr. He handles all his own setup, and according to his crew, takes extra special care of the equipment.
He's probably the most cautious. You know, he uses his head more than most drivers, and that's why we had 1 race this year that we crashed out of. And all the rest of them we finished in the top 10. Out of 57 all-star shows, we had 1 crash.
Kerr says besides working on the race cars, he's also taking advantage of the off-season to spend some valuable time with his family. But all the while, his blood is itching to race in what for drivers is a typical catch-22.
Now, you know, we can't wait to go racing. Middle of summer, you're like, boy, I wish we could slow down a little. And as soon as it does slow down, you're like, man, I wish we could find a race. You know, it's, there's no happy medium. We just want to race and have fun. You know, that's what we're here for, really.
And by the time these sprinters hit the track, you can bet the fans are going to have a great time watching them. This is Stephanie Boyd reporting for Race Day.
Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate that. Clay Campbell joins us back at the Speedway here where we have been all day and getting ready to be all night, but appreciate you staying up with us. You know, you and I had an interesting conversation this afternoon. We were talking about the fact that there are some other speedways being built, one of which is in Las Vegas, another one scheduled to be built down in California, and another one talked about in Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth area. And I guess race fans have a tendency to start talking and the rumors get out, and boy, they start saying, well, you know, the short tracks are going to be the ones that are going to pay the price for it because they'll end up having to take a race away from somebody to make room for other races and so forth. I think there's a real misconception about what a short track actually is. You actually seat more people here than some of the so-called super speedway tracks, right?
That's right, and you're correct. A lot of people assume a short track, they're going to be the ones to lose because they're a short track.
Right.
But a short track speaks for the size of the racetrack. We seat 59,000 people here, which is more than some of the super speedways seat.
And I asked you the question this morning. I said, how many more people can you seat? What did you say, 30 more thousand you can go back the backstretch with?
We've got plans now for 30 more thousand, easy. That's not saying we're going to do that,
right.
But we can easily build 30 more thousand seats down in turns 3 and 4, so we'd have no problem with expansion in the future.
I think people, particularly stock car fans in this country, are under the illusion that you know, all this just kind of happens by magic. It's kind of like television. I turn it on and there it is. But I think also the amounts of increases in dollars that you have to put into Winston Cup races and Busch Grand National races and other forms of races, you got to build seats because you got to put people in them to be able to live with the purses that are being increased.
Oh yeah, every year it goes up and up and up. I think this year we're spending probably $500,000 more than we spent in 1994 just on purses. Next year in 1996 our purses will be over $1 million. So, you know, we've been expanding over the years, and we'll continue to do that to keep up with the pace of today's activity.
Well, I want to congratulate you again because today I think was real successful, 19,000 plus in the grandstands, and you had to feel awful good about it.
We feel real good. That was exactly what we wanted, and I think we proved a point today.
Well, thanks. We'll enjoy watching the show. We'll have it on Prime Network for you in about 3 or 4 weeks. It'll be on a Thursday night. Check your listings for it. It'll be the Miller Genuine Draft 300. That's going to do it for a real tired and hard-worked JP crew up here in Martinsville, Virginia. Appreciate everybody's efforts in the truck and out here on the grounds. And, hey, guess what? We'll be back with you again next week in our nice, warm studio back in Charlotte, North Carolina. You have a great week. We'll see you next time on On Pit Road, Final Edition.